Welcome to the Founders Series on the Good Vibes podcast, where we spotlight the builders reimagining what's possible in wellness, sustainability, and consumer innovation. Today's guest is Ash Bandaru, founder of Mission Zero, a company on a mission to eliminate waste in takeout food and beverage systems. Ash brings an engineering background, carbon market insights, and a systems thinking approach to a huge problem: disposable packaging. Let's jump in. Hello, Ash, and thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Dan. We're glad to be part of this conversation.
Awesome. Let's start upstream. Most consumers don't think much about where their packaging goes after a takeout meal, but you've built your whole business around that question. What's broken in this system today?
So you probably may be getting a lot of information about how this single-use paradigm has been creating a lot of issues surrounding the subsequent waste production. And then we were told this story historically that ever since we have been on this journey of having a fulfillment solution, right, for food and consumer goods altogether. So the story being told when we're using this disposable packaging is we have recycling, right? So now, and if you recall, maybe that we have all these systems in place where we sort things out, we put them, post use waste into bins, and then in the hope that everything that is being collected, is being recycled. Okay, and obviously, the truth is a bit different, based on where and who you ask, right? So it is more leaning towards the fact that we have a massive scale that we're dealing with, and the systems we have in place, and the technologies and the supporting processes do not actually alleviate the problem at all. Instead, it's actually exaggerating, and that's exactly why we're seeing so much of waste, whether finding sea turtles tangled in plastic, and all of these problems. So what we're seeing, a lot of symptomatic evidences, whether it's on the land or in the ocean or in the air. And all of it is because we haven't been able to really solve the problem according to the story we were told. So, and that's really the problem in the system right now. And the way, of course, we started back in the day to really start looking at this problem was as a bit different, because we started out like looking at, okay, we have a carbon emissions problem today, right? So why don't we actually tackle or capture the carbon and then have it available for different markets? And so there is a downstream utility and value created for the carbon that's already in the air or wherever it is. So we start out at that point, and then we kind of noticed that the most important problem that we needed to solve for any kind of downstream value with the minimal carbon footprint is only created when we take our consumption value chains and see we need to make sure that those are the ones that are to be cleaned up first before even actually thinking about like pumping carbon into the carbon markets.
I want to unpack the actual mechanics then of Mission Zero. How does your approach differ from compostables or traditional alternatives?
So we are a reuse-based solution. If you look at our product life cycle, it doesn't matter whether it's our cell phones or computers or anything that we use today. They are manufactured and then they're delivered to us for utility. We use them as long as we are in its design, and as long as we are actually using them to as it is designed. And then we actually put it in the trash, right? But then the recycling systems or post use should be able to capture all the material, recover the materials from those post use products, and then be able to upcycle or recycle and put it back into those industrial supply chains. So what we noticed at the first is that this system works for products like our cell phones, cars, TVs, where they're designed for extended period of use. The issue with the food service and food and beverage is that the packaging that's used to for takeout, any kind of packaging that is associated with transporting it from the point it's going to manufactured to the point it is consumed. So all of that is designed to be single use. Now, that's where it's essentially a design flaw. We invariably, as a collective of stakeholders in our society, have accepted this reality is because of culmination of several things: material innovation and systems, and the convenience for us to actually kind of use this kind of a solution. So those are single use, and we use it once and throw it out. Okay, and in most situations, a single use, especially utility products, always going to have a lot of impact, carbon emissions or any kind of footprint associated with taking the raw materials from their resources, or and then manufacturing it, bringing it to the consumer, and then putting it into the trash. And from there, it even further goes. The story is that it is collected, sorted, and then a lot of times these days, with especially unrecyclable plastic, the only solution that exists is to burn it. Okay, we don't even have ways to actually handle that kind of material. And also, there should be value incentives for any of the stakeholders to actually say, I want to collect that and use it. And a lot of times in this whole setup, there's a lot of incentive, the upstream chains, because that's where the most of the value is being created and passed down. And then, but this is where the technology doesn't exist on the other end. But then again, also, will there ever be a technology when you have actually transformed the material so much? It's a good question, and it's an interaction between product demands and the utility demands. But going back to how, now that I explained this, how this whole life cycle works, I put into context, like what we're trying to do. We're trying to bring the same element of, instead of actually using it and throwing it out, how about we make it durable enough and create multiple uses. And by actually cutting short the collection, and then these days when we go to a fine dining restaurant, we don't get brand new plates and cutlery. You know, it's being well sanitized and washed and used among several guests.
Yeah, it is kind of operational shift. It isn't for everyone. So who are the early adopters? What kind of partners or businesses tend to get it right away?
Recently, you may have heard the World Cup 2026 is coming to Houston and other cities in the US, and they do have similar environmental goals for their events. And they actually, I was told that from our community that they've researched a lot of the solutions, and they're kind of pushing toward, leaning more towards something we're trying to build, you know, where a reuse based solutions are more likely. Like they're called in these days in circular jargon, uh, closed loop systems and the semi closed loop systems. So they are advocating for closed loop reusable systems that can get the job done and achieve the goals that they have, as opposed to other disposable systems like compostables or even biodegradables for that matter.
And how has the Houston market shaped your rollout and traction so far?
Houston, we're still warming up the idea that reuse is a possibility. I think from our perspective in Houston, people will genuinely warm up, but once you actually educate them about the possibilities, how you can have a healthier alternative to plastics as opposed to drinking your coffee from with microplastics in it, right? And at the same time, the process is not different. It's as clean and as sanitized as anything in your home. So once we educate, I've seen in the past, Houston has always come up with the challenge and they've adopted. We're not too unfamiliar with, remember those days, perhaps the hurricane Ike and Harvey, we were a resilient city, and we, come up and stand to the challenges, and then whenever, they are there. But then again, other parts of the country have already been doing a lot of pilots on the West Coast, East Coast, and especially island economies, right? Island economies don't even have a lot of resources to send waste outside unless they want to dump it all in the waters, which is not necessarily, good for anybody. So some of the economies that don't have a lot of resources, they end up burning all of the waste, and then all of that creates a lot of health hazards, and then besides environmental pollution, because you're so close to where all of the incineration is happening, right? So yeah, so those markets segments and those economies and East Coast and West Coast are trying to drive a lot of reuse based solutions already.
We always close this segment with a one-liner, Ash. What is Mission Zero in a single sentence?
So we are zero waste closed loop systems technology company.
Ash, thank you so much. This conversation is a reminder that solving climate issues at scale isn't about flashy headlines. It's about infrastructure, trust, and follow through. We're excited to see how Mission Zero evolves from here. Where should people go if they want to support the mission, Ash?
Go to our website, go to our social media channels, get to know more about us. And then we are launching in the fall of 2025 in Houston and Austin. And you are welcome to our launch event.
Fantastic. Till next time, stay strong, stay sharp, stay aligned, and keep up the good vibes.